You never done frown. From the midline giants to the Madison Square. Bobo and Cramer, yeah, this man begin it. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Bobo and Cramer, yeah, the sit to last. Taking on the world, and the no gonna stop with that New York grit. They're rising to the top. In a line. Yeah, the best in the house is where the legends play. Bobo and Cramer leading the way. Raging plastic slides, shout it out loud. In the best in the house, we're rocking the crowd. In the best in the house, we're rocking the crowd. In the best in the house, we're rocking the crowd. In the best in the house, we're rocking the crowd.
And that's right, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of the Best Seat in the House podcast. As always, I'm your host, Rob Kramer, joined by my co-host, the great Daniel Bobo Curlin. Dan, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing good, counting a days to opening day, which I'll be at. Of course, I have a crazy opening day streak dating back to the Shea Stadium years. But I guess you could say sort of opening day streak because I'm not going to count 2021, even though 2021 they were allowing fans, and I'm not going to count it. Obviously, 2020 didn't allow fans, but 2021 because of the circumstances, I didn't buy the opening day tickets yet, and the priority of the limited amount of space they had for fans, to reduce capacity was amongst fans who had already had opening day tickets who were able to use their credit for opening day tickets. So obviously that one I didn't. I'm just for the heck of it. I'm not just for the sake of it. I'm not going to count 2021 because of the odd situation. But aside from that, everything that was normal allowed capacity in the stadium, dating back to sometime in the 2000 or something, I was at opening day. But also some breaking news that happened today in the world of New York sports. Howie Rose, voice of the Mets, who has been around since I was almost a kid, like I was very little when he made his appearance in some form or another as part of a Mets broadcast, and a guy who's part of the golden era of WFAN is retiring at the end of the year. We just heard.
That's right. Howie Rose announced today that 2026 will be his final season calling the New York Mets games. And, just like you said, Dan, this is a guy that has literally done it our entire lives. I mean, he joined WFAN, started doing work for the Mets, not necessarily specifically play-by-play, but he started working for the Mets, doing pre- and post-game stuff and everything. In 1987, the debut year of WFAN, so he was, like you said, one of the original members during the golden years of that great, radio station. And, he's actually been the play-by-play voice of the New York Mets in one way or another since 1996. 1996, he came on for what was then Sports Channel in the mid-90s. I remember that was a great opening day, too, in 96 against the St. Louis Cardinals, when Ray Ordonez made his major league debut and made one of the most fantastic plays you're ever going to see. I'll always remember Howie Rose's call from that game. Him and the great Francis Xavier Healy, as Howie would famously always refer to Fran Healy as, doing that game back on Sports Channel back in those days. Then eventually it would change to Fox Sports Net, and he would stay on there until the final year of that setup in 2005. And then in 2006, when SNY started, Gary Cohen switched from the radio booth to the TV booth, and Howie Rose switched from the TV booth to the radio booth. So in one way or another, we've had Howie Rose calling Met play-by-play since 1996, 30 years, Dan, and even longer if you're going back to 87 when he was doing other work for the Mets, Dan. So really crazy to think Howie is 72 years old. This is going to be his last year. And I hope the Mets, unlike what our New York Rangers did last year for Sam Rosen, ending his legendary career with a all-time dud of a season, let's hope the Mets at least give Howie something to go out on, something good to go out on, because, the Rangers didn't do that for Sam. And the only difference is Sam at least got to call a championship for the Rangers back in 1994. We all remember his great, and this one will last a lifetime, call when the time finally ticked off for the Rangers winning the cup. Let's hope that during Howie's final season here, the Mets give us some kind of decent memory like that.
Yeah, that would be nice to Howie Rose to be able to close his career, being able to say that he was a part of 2 long championship droughts being broken. He'll be able to say he was part of when the Rangers broke their championship drought. For those probably aren't aware, Howie Rose at one point for a little bit was in the radio booth for the Rangers, and is forever linked to that call, that Matto, that iconic call, Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals. That radio called the Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals. We all know about that. But yeah, how crazy would that be that he'd be a part of the ending of 2 championship droughts?
It's true. It's true. I actually got to meet Howie Rose one time so far. Hopefully I get to meet him again. But I got to meet Howie Rose outside of Citizens Bank Park in 2004 when I went down there for a Mets-Phillies game. And it was Howie Rose, Fran Healy, and Eddie Coleman I saw walking out of the stadium for that game. And they were all really nice to me and signed a ball. I have Howie's autograph with Fran Healy and Eddie all on a ball. And the first thing I said to Howie, the only thing that I could think of to say to him was that the Matto call is the greatest call in the history of sports. And Howie laughed, and, in the typical Howie, playing it down way, was just, oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And he was very, playing it under the radar, but you could tell he really loved hearing how much Rangers fans enjoyed that call. And how much he loves the fact that he's become a part of Met lore as well, being the voice of the Mets on the radio now for as long as he has,
Yeah, that's amazing. And I gotta actually bring up a little maybe obscure little tidbit. If you were to read through the pages of the program and I was at the '94 NHL All-Star game by luck. You look through the pages of that program, there's a little article written by Howie Rose talking about his little bit of his broadcasting career, and about being about the Rangers fan base and everything, and about the long championship drought. And it's amazing reading about that in the context of something that was printed months before one of the greatest moments in New York sports history happened. I was like, weird. And I'm reading this, and he says, man, you have to believe that a couple months later, we know what happened. I'm looking at this years later, saying, man, we all know what happened a couple months after this was printed.
Yeah, it's true. It's true, man. Like a sign of things to come. So congratulations to the great Howie Rose. It's sad, much like it was with Sam Rosen, that he's going to be going out, and this will be the last year that we have Howie. But hey, we just got to enjoy every second of it. Hope the Mets give him something good to go out on. And, hey, at least Howie's going out on his terms. I remember when the Phillies announcer, Harry Callis, passed away, and he passed away literally in the Phillies, at the microphone, basically. I mean, it wasn't during a game, but this is a guy that basically passed away on the job. And he did it his whole life. And you got to tip your cap to a guy that was committed to it for that long. I believe Harry Callis was either in his late 70s or his 80s when he passed away there. But, it makes me feel good, too, that as long as Howie has been on this run for, at least Howie's going to be able to enjoy his life, spend some more time with his wife and his family. And he's got 2 daughters. And so, it's good to know that at least Howie's going to be able to enjoy his life post-retirement. Because even like Bob Murphy, Bob Murphy didn't pass away in the same way that that Harry Callis did, but Bob Murphy was gone within a year of his last Met game. He did his last season with the Mets in 2003, and he passed away pretty early on in 2004. So at least we can sit here and hope that Howie has a long retirement and he gets to enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly. And I still hope that during times they still bring in Howie Rose to when times when the Met, hopefully the Mets there'll be multiple Met championships, and he'll be the guy that'll have the honor of emceeing the ring ceremony. and we know that.
Yeah,
We know without a doubt if the Mets win is they'll give him the honor of that. I feel like they need to do something like that the way the Rangers have handled, with Sam Rosen been emceeing these ceremonies. I feel like they need to have Howie Rose do that.
I agree. And even if, let's say it's typical Mets, maybe we don't get a championship from the Mets, I would be happy if they could figure out a way to get, just like you said, to have Howie come back as the master of ceremonies for maybe future opening days down the road. Maybe he's not doing the play-by-play here in 2027, I guess it would be. But maybe it'd be nice if for 2027, 2028, as long as Howie wants to do it, maybe we still have him come in and be the master of ceremonies for opening day.
Yeah, that would be that's as I was saying, that would be a neat thing for him to do, and hopefully we'll be still seeing that with the ring ceremony, hopefully very soon.
Yeah, it's true. That's true, man. And real quick before we keep rolling along here, I want to give a shout out to some people hanging out with us in the chat. Disabled Officer, as always, thank you for your support. We got PhD hanging out with us. Bobo and Cramer, oh yeah, we appreciate that, buddy. Good old Alva Lanker hanging out with us. What's up? Good evening, my friend. How you doing tonight?
Yep. Thanks for all the support from everyone we're seeing in the comments, and thanks to everyone for watching that. There was a lot of people that watched that show that we did on Tuesday.
That's right. And shout out to T Dratum. Want to give him a shout out too real quick before we go on. But yeah, Dan, you're absolutely right. That was a blast on Tuesday doing that watch along. We hope everybody enjoyed that. If you haven't seen it yet, it's still up on our YouTube channel. You can check it out. Under the live tab. It was a really great show that we had. We watched the World Baseball Classic. We're going to talk about that in a sec. Unfortunately, the U.S. didn't come out on top. But if you do want to have a good time watching it and laugh your ass off a little bit, we were joined by some great guests. Our old friend Stevie Lou, Barb Marie jumped on again, and Bobby Tamburo coming over. Those guys jumped on, hilarious as always. And then, of course, we had the great Cardiff Electric come on. So we definitely had a good amount of guests there, Dan.
Yeah, we had such a wonderful array of guests. It was just a lot of fun. I'm surprised some of the guests didn't pick up on that. I was so drunk that I forgot the Seinfeld reference that I made in that episode. You pick up when I made a Seinfeld reference?
I picked up on the reference. I just didn't want to blow your spot up. It's kind of like, remember when Anthony used to sneak those in? And if nobody caught it, I wasn't going to say anything. So that's why I knew what you were getting at with the Seinfeld reference, but I didn't want to blow it up.
Yeah, because I just find it hilarious to do stuff like that and make it seem like something that happened to me. Like, remember I did that? I thought it was funny to make it look like I lost. I made it look like the TV show Squid Games was something that the Netflix show Squid Games was something that happened to me. Like I described pretty much the plot for that. And I applied it as if it took place in the U.S. instead of South Korea. Like I said, I said things like I said since I knew the guy was recruited in a train station to wait the whole thing, and he got sold on joining me. So I said a subway station. And I just randomly said 61st Woodside that happened. But I just had a lot of. I thought it was fun doing it. I also think it's funny to do that with Curb Your Enthusiasm references sometimes. Make it look like it's something that happened to me. I think that Seinfeld and Curb are funny ones to use to make people think it's something that happened to you. By the way, or hilarious if you want to try that.
It's two shows that take so much out of things that could happen in everyday life. So you're right, because it is like the two easiest shows that you can apply to your own life to try to, mess with people or trick them a little bit,
Yeah, exactly. And for some reason, I feel like Curb Your Enthusiasm everyone could relate to, because let's face it, we feel like sometimes trouble seems to find us, even when we're not trying to, cause any problems. Things just seem to fall in our lap.
No doubt about it, Dan. No doubt about it. It's like the Larry David syndrome, you know. And
Yeah.
all right, let's get into things now here, Dan. We did want to for a second, obviously, you know, if you want to see our full reaction to it, you could check out the show on Tuesday. We did a full 3 hour watch along. We watched the whole game, including the opening ceremonies, with our old friends, like we said. A lot of fun. If you want to check it out, it's still up there on the YouTube page. But Dan, unfortunately, for the second straight World Baseball Classic, the United States comes up short. Um, you know, Mark DeRosa looked like he had dug himself out of that hole that he put himself in earlier in this tournament, where the U.S. almost got knocked out after that loss to Italy. But the U.S. was able to knock out the Dominican Republic in the semifinals, but just came up short against Venezuela. Once again, the bats were not there. You know, we saw that in the championship game 4 years ago in 2020. I'm sorry, 3 years ago in 2023, when the U.S. bats once again got shut down by Japan. Now we're seeing that come up again against Venezuela. And I'm sorry, against Japan, you can sit here and argue, you know what? The bats, just weren't going to get it done against whoever the Japanese pitcher may be at the time, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, or any of these other great pitchers they want to throw out there. You're looking at, first of all, let's start with the semifinal game against the Dominican Republic. That United States lineup got shut down against Luis Severino. Look, as Met fans, we know Luis Severino is a good pitcher. We saw him at his best in the playoffs and down the stretch in 2024. Is this a guy that should be, shutting down that type of lineup over 4 or 5 innings? No, I'm sorry. I like Severino, especially in March. The U.S. should have put up a couple of crooked numbers against Severino in that game. And the same thing goes for the Venezuela championship game, Dan. They're facing Eduardo Rodriguez, a guy who is not half the pitcher that Severino is. And he's a lefty that the U.S. should be able to feast on, not to mention, and a guy that had an ERA over 5. He hasn't been a really effective pitcher in a couple of years. So this is a guy coming off a bad year that goes out there, and once again, he throws shutout ball. I mean, at least Severino allowed 2 runs. They let Eduardo Rodriguez put up shutout baseball against them, and that's a disgrace. The only 2 runs the U.S. put up was by a bomb by Bryce Harper, who finally atoned for his, slow start to the tournament and everything. But that was the only damage the U.S. did all game. It's an embarrassment the U.S. only put up a combined 4 runs in the semifinal and the championship game. Say what you want, Dan. This was a talented U.S. team, but they just did not deserve to win.
Yeah, it was just an utter disaster. I feel these guys were too homer happy, trying to do way too much at the plate, and it showed big time in that game. The other thing, Mark DeRosa, what the fuck are they doing? Whoever's in charge of naming the manager for the U.S. team, naming a guy who's never managed a single game in the major leagues, not even in the minor league level, manage this team. What the fuck? So somebody's got to be up the ass of whoever the commission makes that decision. Someone who's never really managed at the professional level, managing the team. I don't quite get that. I understand maybe he's been in baseball, I don't mean, but you want to give a manager in a big spot, someone who's actually managed before, somebody who's managed in the big leagues for a while.
You're right.
And you have him manage the team, and plus mismanagement of the bullpen, not going with their top reliever in the top of the 9th. Another big mistake right there. And
That's a great point.
And it cost us the game. Plus, once again, just like Aaron Judge has looked embarrassing at times to the Yankees in big spots, failed once again. And now at this tournament, I can go back to booing Aaron Judge and Bryce Harper.
Yes, you can. And, the interesting thing too, Dan, is I totally agree with you. We called it out in real time. I found it very weird. I remember looking at it and saying to you and Bobby and Stevie Lou at the time, because I believe at this time Barb had just left and Cardiff hadn't returned yet. So it was, um, he's bringing out Garrett Whitlock. Now, we had just been told earlier in the day, I was watching MLB Network. Mark DeRosa had just mentioned that it's it's all hands on deck. Mason Miller is available. Would they like to stay away from him? Sure, but if the game's on the line, they're going to go to him. Perfect. That makes sense. So in a 2-2 game in the ninth inning, when you're the home team, now top of the ninth inning, Dan, how many times do you hear this? This is, especially as Met fans, this is something we talk about all the time, especially when we had Edwin Diaz. A tie game in the ninth inning, you go to your closer in the top of the ninth to bring it to the bottom of the ninth, still a tie game. You have a chance to win it there. Now, there's no reason to save your closer for extra innings. There's no save situation that's going to come up. Once you get to the point where you're entering the ninth inning in a tie game, the only way you can win that game is via a walk-off. So you're not going to have a save situation. There's no reason to save your closer. You might as well just use him in the top of the ninth. Now, I don't want to knock Garrett Whitlock either, because Garrett Whitlock had performed very well. He had a very good year last year. I don't want to sit here and act like, oh, it's the worst decision in the world that he brought in Garrett Whitlock. But I also want to say, you have your top guy. You have your ace. You have your ace in the hole waiting there. Mason Miller was the nastiest guy in the bullpen. We all knew it. And it was just a really bad decision not to go to him. And it ended up costing them the game. And it's a shame that it ended up working out that way, because now for the second straight time, the U.S. is a runner-up. And, unfortunately, Mark DeRosa has nobody else to blame but himself.
Yeah, and I feel like really the commission, whoever makes that decision, should not name him as the manager for the next WBC.
Yeah,
got to be someone. I suggest somebody else. I can't think of a name, but somebody who's managed at the professional level for years.
Yeah, you know who I would have liked for this turn? And as a Met fan, I guess it makes sense because I still have a soft spot in my heart for him. But I would have loved to see Buck Showalter, and I forgot, actually, Buck Showalter was the inaugural manager for Team USA in this World Baseball Classic all the way back in 2006.
Yeah, that's surprising. That actually, I think Buck Martinez was the manager of the 2006 WBC team. My memory's correct.
I don't think it was. I'll double check right now, but I'm pretty sure. I was just watching a clip the other day.
Yeah, I gotta look.
Oh, I'm looking it up right now. It's okay. Keep talking.
Yeah, I remember something that I can't confirm, but I think that if I'm correct, that was the manager.
It was Buck Martinez. You're right.
Yeah, I remember that because I freaking remember. I remember watching that tournament.
Yeah. So that's a good call. It was Buck Martinez. I could have swore it was Buck Showalter. I guess Buck didn't. Because it was Davey Johnson in 2009, and who was it in 13? Buck couldn't have done that. Buck. It was Joe Torre in 2013. Interesting. I definitely thought that it was Buck Showalter, but either way, that's an even better case. It should have been Buck Showalter this time around.
Yeah, it would have, and I can almost guarantee the only thing you would have to worry about is him bringing an assistant to the traveling secretary that would probably suggest switching the uniforms to cod and you would have to worry about it. But then again, maybe that flunked out because we would have had to worry about a Bryce Harper splitting his pants.
This is true. And all right, last thing. So congratulations to Venezuela for winning that. They did get it done. That meant a lot to them. It's been called the biggest sporting event in the history of the country. So hats off to them. They got the job done.
Yeah, and I have to say I was shocked. I think for those of you who didn't see this, I was shocked that the get-in price was $221 because I realized I remember the get-in prices for the WBC in the past for the championship game were a lot lower than that. I meant that the previous one, it was kind of doable. I mean, even the second round game I was at in 2013, I meant 2013, 2009. when David Wright had that walk off. I found out the people I went with. He told me that he got a good deal on those. He got a good deal. It was because he had went to a Yankee spring training game, so he got like a buy one get one free if you attended spring training. They sent him a promo code for because of the spring training game he attended, a buy one get one free promo code. So it's a huge contrast to how the demand for tickets have gone up since then.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. There's definitely more demand this year than in years past, no doubt about it. And Dan, I did want to get your opinion too, because there was something that kind of annoyed me. So, Juan Soto today, he is rejoining the Mets. He's now playing his first game with the Mets since the DR got eliminated by the WBC on Sunday. And boy, they were in Miami. It's not like he had to freaking travel halfway across the country or the world to get here. So he left the DR got eliminated on Sunday, and he's finally just coming back to the Mets today. So it's nice to see him back in the lineup. But that's not even what annoyed me. The thing that annoyed me was a quote coming out of Juan Soto following the U.S. beating the Dominican Republic. And this is what he said. He said, following his team's loss in the semifinal, not even in the championship game, he said, "We showed the world who's the best team in baseball. That's all I got to say." And I got to tell you, Dan, if this was following a Mets playoff series, and he said this about the Mets after they had just lost a playoff series, this would drive me nuts. This guy, not to mention, look, the Dominican Republic dropped 10 runs a game in this tournament. Guess how many they scored when it mattered the most in their biggest game of the year? 1. So you can say what you want. Oh, you really beat up a bunch of crappy teams early on in the tournament. Congratulations. You knocked out Korea 10-0. Tip of the cap to you, Mr. Soto. But guess what? When everything was on the line, I seem to remember Juan Soto grounding into a pretty big double play in the middle of this game. I think it was the 5th or the 6th inning that killed a big Dominican rally that could have got them back in this game. And, they were only down by 1 anyway. You scored 1 run against the U.S. To sit here and say, oh, we showed the world we're the best team in baseball. If he said this after, let's just say he was on that 2024 Met team and the Mets lost to the Dodgers in 6 games. If this is what he said following that series, that would piss me off.
Yeah, that is, Juan Soto, we love you on our Mets and everything, but come on, do you really need to say this after you were on a team that lost? Really? The outcome says different. The outcome is a lot different. It says a lot different than that. So why are you saying that? That speaks for itself. So that has to be one of the dumbest statements. And I feel kind of weird having to say this to a guy on my team during the MLB season, but you made a dumb statement, and maybe you need to really think about what you're going to say after a loss.
Yeah, it's a very weird thing to say, and I get you still having pride. You could still say, "Hey, we had a great run. We just didn't come up, with the big hit today when we needed it." Look, there are plenty of ways that you can still be proud and give credit to your team and your teammates without saying, well, we're still the best team in the world, even though we lost. Like if Kyle Schwarber had turned around and said that after the U.S. lost to the Venezuelan team on Tuesday night, I would have been just as annoyed. It's like, no, you're not the best team in the world. Venezuela is. You lost to them. Although that's one other thing, too, I did want to ask you, Dan. There was a lot of people that did make a little bit of noise about Kyle Schwarber ripping off his silver medal after he received it following the loss. And, well, it does come off as a little bit of, baby shit, pardon my French. But I think that's a little bit more acceptable than going up and flat out saying that you're still the best team in the world, even though you just lost. At least Schwarber didn't say that he still thinks the U.S. is the best team. It was more frustration that they lost. Yeah, he he probably still shouldn't have done it. But you want to show a little bit more respect and humility in the face of defeat. But hey, I can understand his frustration in that moment. What I can't understand is saying you're still the best team in baseball, even though you lost in the semifinals.
Yeah, exactly. I could understand. Maybe he should have done that after he waited till he walked under the tunnel. But I understand the circumstance. I mean, let's face it, they don't do that, and you don't lose the World Series. They don't present you a participation ring right after you win the World Series. They kind of low key do a ring ceremony for the second place, whatever I call second place. That sort of gets lost in the whole thing that they give the runner up of the World Series these league champion rings. But the point is, save it for under the tunnel. But I understand the frustration. I mean, they don't do that in MLB. And let's face it, the old saying, maybe you're following the old Ricky Bobby mentality. You ain't first, you're last, or the old saying that you don't win silver. You've lost gold.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true, man. So yeah, unfortunately, U.S. not able to get it done, but now our attention focuses right to opening day. We're a week away from that. Spring training is back into focus. Real quick, did want to check in with the chat. Our buddy Nigsaw hanging out with us. I love that name and I love that picture. Let's see. I own a bootleg Baffa Mets jersey, so shout out to Nigsaw for that.
I don't know what that is at Baffo.
I'm not sure either, but I mean, the bottom line is he owns a bootleg Mets jersey, so there we go. And let's see, Alva Lanker saying, I truly don't understand why he said that, talking about Soto. What was he thinking? And that's well said. Well said. I mean, that's a guy that's definitely emotional in the moment, so you want to give him the benefit of the doubt for that. But still, I mean, you want a lot more professionalism than that, especially from a guy that's going to be on the Mets for the next 15 years now, Dan, right? I mean, if just like I said before, if he ever said anything like that after a Met playoff loss or whatever, he'd be getting killed.
Yeah, I hope he doesn't make any mistakes like that. I mean, it's freaking New York. Everything's gonna be magnified, and hopefully he handles it better. And hopefully we're not having this talk, and we're talking about him probably celebrating and maybe drunk off champagne after a championship.
Let's hope so. Let's definitely hope so, man. And all right, so spring training is back into focus now. Mets and the Yankees, like I said. Interesting, Garrett Cole made his spring training debut today, so his long trek back from Tommy John surgery is underway now, and he only pitched one inning today, but it went nice, and he was free and easy, so he'll be making his next appearance in a few days, and it'll be nice to see how he progresses over time. I think the Yankees expect him and Rodon to join the team some point in May. So that's something to look forward to for the Yankees there. We are 1 week away from MLB opening day. I can't believe that, Dan. We are very close to it at this point, and we will be getting into that with our MLB predictions in just a couple of minutes. There was a couple of other little things I did want to hit on before we get out of here, Dan, or before we jump into the prediction stuff. And first, a couple of quick little Jets notes, because the Jets are still doing a whole bunch of stuff here. And I thought it was interesting, too. Everybody kind of just expected the Jets to release Justin Fields, their quarterback, who failed miserably this season. And the Jets failed miserably, turning him into a serviceable quarterback. But the Jets actually traded him to the Kansas City Chiefs for a 6th-round pick. Now, I heard this floated early on in the offseason, because let's not forget the Chiefs had a bad season last year. Patrick Mahomes suffered a season-ending injury, and he's going to be rehabbing that injury until probably late October, early November. So they're going to have most of that first half of the season without Patrick Mahomes. So I think they kind of wanted to get a quarterback that fit their system, that Andy Reid thinks that he might be able to get something out of. So the Jets actually save a little bit of money by not having to release Fields. They do, get back a sixth round pick, which it's not much, but it is an asset. And I got to give credit to the Jets because I did not think they were going to get anything for this guy.
Yeah, you got to give credit to the Jets. They got something, and sometimes these late picks sometimes turn into something that you never quite know that fly under the radar. We've seen it happen in the past.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So we'll see how things pan out for Fields there, but the Jets and the Justin Fields era of Justin Fields being with the Jets is over. The other couple of little things on the Jets, though, Dan, is it's very interesting to me. Mike Francesa had a couple of Jets notes over the last 2 weeks. One of them, the first one we'll say, is that from what he says, he claims the Mannings are going to do what they did back in the 90s with Peyton and with Eli. He claims the Mannings do not want Arch Manning to play for the Jets. Gary Myers, however, a respected NFL writer, has come out and completely said that is 100% false. Gary Myers also added some interesting context to the Peyton and Eli situations. Now, I did not know that I had for years blamed Peyton Manning for not coming to the Jets. I believe I've even said it on this show multiple times. I've said it on other shows I've been on, that Peyton didn't want to come to the Jets for a multitude of reasons. But Gary Myers actually was reporting that the Mannings made it clear to the Jets that if Bill Parcells guaranteed them that he was going to be taking Peyton at number 1, then there'd be no question about it. Peyton Manning was going to be coming out and getting drafted by the Jets. But Bill Parcells was a little hesitant. And even though he did want Peyton Manning, he didn't want to lock himself in to being forced to draft him no matter what. So it was an interesting dynamic there that I had no idea about, that the Mannings just wanted that reassurance that Peyton was going to be going number 1. Otherwise, he'd go back to college for his senior season. And the Jets didn't give him that reassurance, so he went back to college for his senior season. So I think that's a little bit interesting too, Dan. I had never heard that before.
Yeah, that is kind of surprising. And I mean, Parcells, he was a great coach, and he made some great decisions. I mean, at GM, he wrote the ship. He made several teams winners. May have even indirectly had a hand in the Patriots dynasty without, even though he was only around for a short time. He may have maybe at a hand because he brought in, because Belichick was one of his assistant coaches, and Robert Kraft was convinced that Belichick was going to be the head coach if that opportunity arose. So he had a chance of that, and of course his legacy, of course, with the Giants, but and the way he turned around the Jets, even though he didn't stick around a long time, that surprised me. I figured he was going to pounce on that opportunity to get the guy that could be a franchise quarterback.
Yeah,
that one surprised me.
It's true. It makes it a little more interesting now that they did have that dialogue going back and forth between them that I wasn't aware of. And also, too, they even said with Eli that it wasn't necessarily Eli saying, I mean, sure, that they didn't necessarily want him to go to the Chargers. They'd prefer the Giants. But Gary Myers was reporting that the Mannings weren't really 100% against it, but they did know his preference wasn't there. So the Chargers liked Phillip Rivers a lot anyway and wanted him. So they were really just trying to get more draft picks out of the Giants as it worked out that way. So pretty interesting dynamic there too. So what Gary Myers is saying is that what Francesa is reporting is completely wrong, and the Mannings are not going to stand in the way at all should Arch Manning fall to the Jets.
Yeah, that they will not stand in the way. That's probably going to be like another year. But if the circumstances work out that way, then they'll have no problem standing in the way, and it could the question mark is going to be up in the air. What's going to how the Jets are going to turn out in this rebuild, because we all know the disastrous that management of the Jets are with rebuilds.
Got that right. Got that right. So they've been rebuilding for the last 15 years. Let's hope that this one sticks. And real quick, Dan, before we do our playoff predictions, I did want to get into a little bit of Knicks talk. The Knicks blew out the Pacers the other night. Actually, while we were watching the game, the Knicks blew the Pacers out during that World Baseball Classic Championship game. Pacers, not the same Pacers team that have knocked the Knicks out the last 2 years of the playoffs as the obviously they don't have their star player who's hurt now. Tyrese Halliburton, he's down for the season, so we'll see how everything works out with him coming back. He's not going to be like with the Celtics getting their star back prior to their playoff run. So the Pacers are dead and buried. We won't see Halliburton until next year, but nice to see the Knicks go out and light the Pacers up after the Pacers did blow the Knicks out earlier this season. The Knicks did beat them in back-to-back games now, though, of late. But the real story from that game, though, Dan, was the shooting of Josh Hart. Now, Jalen Brunson didn't play in that game, so it was a little worrisome going into it because, the Knicks are a different team without Brunson, as any team would be without their star player. But Josh Hart shot the lights out on Tuesday, Dan. 12 of 13 from the floor, including 5 of 5 from three. He had not only his first 30-point game of the season, but it was his season high. And, when you look at it, Josh Hart's a guy that's had big games for the Knicks in the past, especially from a point scoring aspect. And he's had 6 instances of scoring 20 points this year. This is his first of 30. So nice to see Josh Hart start getting that scoring touch as we get close to the playoffs here.
Yeah, that was pretty nice to see that Josh Hart get the scoring touch, and hopefully it's just something that they just wanted to spill Jalen Brunson an off day, nothing to hit Panic City about.
Yeah, true, very true.
Because I was watching this game right after I think I took a nap after work because after that I was a little tired. After I woke up from the nap, I kind of put on the next game because I had it saved on I had it recorded on my DVR because it's on the same time as the WBC game, and I watched it. So it was a nice little win.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Anytime you can drop 136 points, you're feeling pretty good about it, especially when your best player isn't playing that night. So great job by the Knicks there. Now, they do have a couple of easy games coming up in a row. First one of that being against the Nets. I guess technically the first one of that would have been the last game against the Pacers. But the Nets keep the streak of playing bad teams going. Knicks, as you can see now, 20 games over 500, going up against the Nets, who are just having a terrible year, 17-52. So 7:30, it's going to be Friday night in Brooklyn. And, let's hope the Knicks can keep this going right now because they need to just keep stacking up the wins until we get to the playoffs now.
Yeah, exactly. They need to pull this off. It's gonna be a nice little easy win for the Knicks. It's gonna be probably 80% Knicks fans in this crowd because I've seen the Knicks on the road at the Barclays before. There was one time at one of my old jobs I won in a raffle these courtside seats to one of these games again, and it was mostly Knicks fans. And that was just and of course the other part that was like weird. City courtside seats at that game was weird. That was like the weirdest thing. And I had to say though, the food was good. And surprisingly, one of the little free foods was like these cookies, and they had Knicks ones because they knew there was going to be mostly Knicks fans.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Especially with this bad. I mean, even when Brooklyn was good, there'd still be a lot of Knicks fans in the building. Brooklyn is Knicks territory. They could put the Nets there all they want. There's still going to be more Knicks fans there in the end,
Yeah, exactly. I just feel like it was just more of a big push from some people who own a team that wanted it more than people who were clamming for the team to move there. I feel it was ownership that wanted it, and somehow they were able to convince the mayor and whoever they did to build the Barclays Center. It was just a bunch of higher ups that wanted it more than actual fans. So I can't.
And the person I blame the most for the Nets being in Brooklyn too is James Dolan, because James Dolan could have put the kibosh on it, and he chose not to. And I think that was a very bad mistake, because he should have never let the Nets into New York City.
Yeah, I just feel it was just like a dumb thing, and I could tell you, even a poor designed venue that had some disasters, especially if you see hockey at that venue, because there was a couple of times I saw the Rangers on the road against the Isles back when the Isles were playing there, and there was rumors about them moving there, and they did not take those rumors seriously when they were building the building. They did not think it was true, because that whole end of the ice was blocked. Remember hearing about that end of the block? I think, remember I posted I don't know if you remember, I posted a picture back then on Twitter of the view from my seat, so someone gifted me a ticket. My sister decided to get me a ticket to the game. Didn't realize that it was obstructive. Didn't read the thing, because I'm sitting in the thing. It was like anytime anything's happening, you had to look at the jumbotron. Then anything that else happening any other part of the ice that wasn't obstructed, you're looking at the ice, and then this part you have to look at the jumbotron. It's like the weirdest thing.
This is true. That was not a good venue for hockey whatsoever. All right, Dan. So I think that's just about going to do it. Let's get into our MLB picks real quick, though. I did want to check in with the chat. I was cracking up at Nick saw in our chat here. Rob Schneider was whining about Canada fast speeding self-suicide. Cardiff's impression. Dan, you know the just do it. You want to do it? You want to give a just do it?
Just do it. Right. I can't do a good do it justice the impression of Cardiff. And besides that, if I even tried doing an impression of Cardiff, it would sound too much more like my Uncle Joe, because for some reason my Uncle Joe I feel like he kind of reminds me a little bit of Cardiff, a little bit. and that's it. The crazy thing is, Cardiff kind of looks like my Uncle Joe a little bit.
Don't tell Stuttering John that.
Yeah. I can't legally show any pictures of him, but I met. I don't think anyone's ever known this. I met Cardiff. I met the man behind the potato at Citi Field. He was in the stands when the Jays were in town. He was actually there. Super nice guy in person, by the way. When I met him, I actually ran into him in a stadium when I was there.
That is awesome.
He was in town. Not many people know that I've met. That I've actually met Cardiff, and he was. Hold on, what the?
Sorry about that, buddy. Got kicked out of here for a sec, but we're back and up and running. And that's awesome that you got to meet Cardiff there, though. That was so cool with Cardiff coming on the other day, and I'm looking forward to your trip up to Toronto on Canada Day.
Yeah. We might both have to go figure that out. Maybe pull up a road trip there.
No doubt about it. It, man. And all right, let's. Yeah, what were you gonna say?
Yeah, I think that kind of be a fun. That'd be a little fun idea to have us there and actually document it, and maybe make some funny comments when we actually see the puck in the Hockey Hall of Fame. The Jack Hughes goal says, make the jokes that it's there to remind everyone in that country who won that game.
Exactly. Although it wouldn't surprise me too to see Cardiff in a Venezuela shirt to rub it in for the WBC a little bit, you know.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know how I'd be able to get one of those because those. I mean, the WBC jerseys were super expensive and sold out quick. I was trying to buy a Team USA jersey because I saw they sold out in my size.
Wow. Well, hey, it's a limited time thing too. I'm sure because the interest level in the World Baseball Classic is, it doesn't last that long. So I think that's probably why it was all sold out. It's peak interest when it's ready to go, and then as soon as it's over, nobody cares about it again. So, and all right, Dan, let's just about get ready to get into this. I did want to give a Lee for CO coming out here saying you guys should do a show with Joey C and Lou the God. Both are baseball fanatics with lots of knowledge. And he is right, too. Joey C did work for MLB for 30 years. Do you know Joey C, Dan? I don't know how much you know about the Dabbleverse and that stuff. I know you do know a little bit. But are you aware of Joey C? Joey C makes me laugh. Joey C is a good character. You always see him hanging around with Tukey and the boys. So I do enjoy me some Joey C. But how about you, Dan? Are you aware of Joey C?
I'm not quite aware of Joey C. I don't know everyone there. I know some people who happen to be there, but I look through other shows and stuff. So I'm sure that'd be a great idea. We should definitely try to inquire about both of us going on that show one of these days.
Yeah, well, or having them on here too, because Lou is his co-host for his show, and I was not aware actually that Lou is a big Mets fan. So I would love to talk to Joey C and Lou. That would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun. I would love to do their show one of these days. Definitely, we should put out a DM to them about us going on their show one of these days.
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be very cool. And he says I'll let them know. Definitely let Joey know. I'm a big fan of Joey, so I would love to have Joey come on here, or just like Dan said, me and him go on his show. Anything like that would be very cool. Shout out to Joey and Lou. And with that, Dan, let's get right into our MLB predictions. And it's 2026. We've been doing this since we started the show 4 years ago, Dan. And let's take a look. We are kicking things off with the AL East. We're starting with the junior circuit, the American League, the AL East, Dan. You've got the Yankees winning the AL East. I've got the Blue Jays repeating. The Yankees, not a bad choice. The Yankees did win 94 games last year, tied with the Blue Jays for first in the American League East. The Blue Jays won the tiebreaker, though, and did win the division. Yankees entered the playoffs as a wild card. But, look, the Yankees, when you look at the Yankees as a team, Dan, they probably have from top to bottom the best pitching staff when it's fully healthy in, if not the American League, probably all of baseball. And it's tough to debate that when you've got, names like Garrett Cole and Max Fried and Carlos Rodon and Cam Schlittler and any of these young arms they could throw at you. Luis Heel. I'm sure there's a couple others I'm not thinking of right now. But the Yankees do have a deep rotation, and we all know how good they can swing the bats. But Dan, I'm still going with the Blue Jays. I like what the Blue Jays did. They did lose Bo Bichette, which is going to hurt, no doubt about it. But I think the Blue Jays can still be a good team. Obviously, they've got, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. They've got a lot of electric talent coming from that team, too. Trey Savage, their rookie, who was kind of like the Blue Jays version of Cam Schlittler, is going to start the season on the IL. So they're not going to have him right out of the gate. But, they did spend a lot of money in this offseason. I think a lot of people also forget about the guy they signed last offseason in Anthony Santander, who's a 35-40 home run switch hit bat that they didn't have for most of last year. He was hurt. So I think if they could get anything out of him this year, that'd be big. And, hey, it's gonna be a fun race in that AL East because the Yankees are ready to go. The Blue Jays are ready to go. Even the Red Sox got some more pieces. Can't forget about the Orioles adding Pete Alonso and everything. But I'm going Blue Jays, and you're going Yankees. What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, that's what I got. I just felt like it's going to be like a nail biter, but I did pick the Yankees to win the AL East, but I really don't think they're going to run away with it either. It's going to go to the last week of the season. And dare I say it, the last weekend of the season. It's not going to be a run. It's not going to be a runaway division title with the Yankees. They might win the AL East, but they're going to probably have to play in the wild card round.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. Wouldn't surprise me. Just like last year, it came down to the final weekend. Definitely would make sense that that's going to happen again this year. As so for the AL East, I have the Blue Jays. Bobo as the New York Yankees. With that, Dan, let's keep it rolling along to the AL Central. The AL Central, Bobo, you took the Cleveland Guardians. I took the Detroit Tigers. And it's funny. I went and looked back. Me and you both took the same guys, the same teams last year for the AL Central. And for basically all of the season, I was right. The Tigers led for basically the entire year. And then the Guardians got on a ridiculous roll in September. They won, I forget what it was. I don't think it was 20 in a row, but because they did that when Lindor was there. But they won an ungodly amount of games in a row and ended up stealing the division from the Tigers on basically the second to last day or the last day of the season. So you got to give all the credit in the world to the Guardians for not being buried. And they ended up taking the division back, Dan, and it just seemed like every single day they were winning, and it didn't matter what the Tigers did. However, I still feel like the Tigers are going to learn from that experience, and I think the Tigers are going to have a really good year, too. Let's not forget, they still have Tariq Skubal, and they added Framber Valdez, the big lefty from the Houston Astros, who won a championship down there. Valdez, is a guy that should pitch pretty well in that Comerica ballpark. It's a big ballpark down there. And they also added Justin Verlander, who I think a lot of people might forget about. I mean, he's not in his prime anymore, but if they're counting on him as like a number 4 or 5 starter, that could be pretty good for the Detroit Tigers. And they might be able to give the Yankees for a run for one of the deeper rotations in the American League. So, but Tigers Guardians, kind of hard to, you're basically splitting hairs on both those teams, both really, really good teams. And I can't fault you for taking the Guardians. I just feel like the Tigers are gonna, rebound after blowing it last year.
Yeah, I just had a feeling it was going to be one of those neck and neck things, and it feels like that. For some reason, the Guardians are probably going to end up sneaking right in there.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. So do you think that are you expecting the Guardians to have like a dominant season? Are they going to go in as the top seed? Or, you did say that you think they're going to sneak in. So what, do you see them more as like an 88, 89 win team going in as like the low division seed?
Yeah, that's what I kind of feel like could happen.
Okay, yeah, I mean, definitely can't argue with that. I think we all know the American League Central is probably the weak division in baseball, but I think that it's going to be a little bit better. The Kansas City Royals did add some talent. The Chicago White Sox are not as bad as they used to be, so it's going to be a little bit better. But I do think the two teams it's going to come down to is the Guardians and the Tigers. So we're both on that, and Bobo has the Guardians. I have the Tigers on that for the AL Central. All right, Dan, for the AL West, you got the Mariners coming back. The Mariners had a great year last year, went on a run all the way to the American League Championship Series Game 7, where they came up just a little bit short against the Toronto Blue Jays in that one. So you're taking the Mariners to follow up their great season with another great season. And for me, though, I'm taking a little bit out of the box. I see a lot of people picking the Mariners too. It's a hot pick. I see a lot of people also taking the Houston Astros because that's a team that you've been able to rely on the last few years. They always kind of find a way to be in that mix. However, I'm going with the Texas Rangers. A lot of people forget about the Rangers. It was only 3 years ago they won the World Series, beating the Arizona Diamondbacks in the World Series back in 2023. The Rangers are a team that, obviously has a great ace and a guy we all know as Met fans, Jacob deGrom. When you look at what else they have, they still have Nady Eovaldi there. They also they made a couple of trades. I know that it's been reported that there was basically a big falling out between Corey Seager, the shortstop, and Marcus Semien, the new Mets second baseman, when they were when they were a double play tandem over there at second base and shortstop for the Texas Rangers. They did win a world championship together, but apparently somewhere along the way there was a falling out. And I think that they fixed a lot of that stuff. I think getting Semien out of there freshens up their clubhouse a little bit. We all know they traded for Brandon Nimmo. So Nimmo's a good clubhouse guy. It's going to come in. He should provide a little bit more offense to that outfield. And I think that the Texas Rangers are going to surprise some people this year, Dan. Obviously you're picking the Mariners. So what do you think?
Yeah, I just feel like the Mariners are going to be – they're just going to be pumped because they came so close than they ever have. They're going to want to try to pounce off of that momentum from last year. I feel like that they're gonna end up right there in it.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue that. The Mariners still have a very deep pitching staff too. I've already mentioned the Tigers and the Yankees as among the teams with best pitching staffs. You have to mention the Mariners in that too. They've got a lot of good young pitching on that team and veteran pitching. And like a guy like Luis Castillo there. Obviously, George Kirby is another young name that they can throw at you. So there's a lot of talent on that Mariners team. So it doesn't surprise me. I also like their closer, Anthony Munoz. So makes a lot of sense to me, Dan. However, I do feel like the Rangers are going to have a little bit more to win the division. But as you'll see in a second here, I agree with you. I think the Mariners are going to be a playoff team, even if it's not winning the division. And let's get to our wild card predictions right now for that, Dan. So, Bobo, you're taking the Red Sox, the Twins, and the Blue Jays. So it looks like we pretty much agree. You got the Blue Jays in there. I don't got the Red Sox or the Twins, but you do have the Blue Jays. And obviously, I agree with you on this, where I have the three teams that you picked to win the division all as wild cards. So it's really not that far off how we are in our American League teams. And it's going to be a lot closer for the National League. So get ready for that. But, we basically have, outside of the Red Sox and Twins, very similar, picks for our playoff teams and everything, especially here in the American League. Dan, you've got the Red Sox, Twins, and Blue Jays. What do you like about those teams?
I just feel like the Red Sox just have a good nucleus that's just on the rise, that's just ready to take that next step, and I feel like they're gonna be in it right there, and they're gonna be a team in the mix that people should not be sleeping on. I mean, and including, we even saw some young players that are been coming up. We saw Roman Anthony had some big moments in the World Baseball Classic. He looks like he's going to be a prominent player in the MLB for years to come. I feel like you guys got a pretty good player out there. I got to say to any of my friends, I got some friends in Boston. You guys got a pretty good player, Roman Anthony. Got a good respect for him.
No doubt about it. We know our friend Stevie Lou is a big Red Sox fan, so I'm sure he's excited to see Roman Anthony play this year. And you're right, he did have a lot of big moments this year in the WBC, making a name for himself. So I definitely think a lot of good things are in that kid's future, no doubt about it. And I think my playoff teams are pretty self-explanatory. Yeah, there's a reason why I have them all as wild cards and you have them all as division winners, because they're all really good teams. So no need to beat a dead horse on that one. Now, Dan, let's turn our attention to the senior circuit, and that would be the National League. If you're not familiar why they call it that, it's because it's the older league, founded in 1876. The American League, founded in 1901, is the junior circuit. So for the National League, Dan, let's get into it. Not a surprise. Me and you both have the Mets winning the National League East. I feel bad picking the Mets too, because every year I've picked the Mets to win the division or even make the playoffs, they end up not doing it. So I hope I'm not the jinx. But I'm picking the Mets this year. I still think the Phillies are a good team, and I still think the Phillies, as you'll see later on, are a playoff team among the better teams in the National League. But I do think that they're going to be hamstrung this year without Zach Wheeler for a long time. And who knows how Zach Wheeler comes back. I mean, look, I don't want to face Zach Wheeler in a big spot when he's on his game. But look, I'm a Met fan. I remember Zach Wheeler as a kid coming over here in the Carlos Beltran trade back in 2011. I saw him grow up quite a bit as a kid when I was going to spring training. I'm talking about him as a kid, even though I was still pretty young too. But, I'm talking about him growing up in the Met system, making his debut in 2014 and, really being one of these guys that just was such a thrill to look forward to watching him pitch in a Met uniform. And I wish nothing but good things to Zach Wheeler, despite him being on the Phillies. But I do think it's really going to hurt the Phillies this year with him not out there for a long time. And, we all saw how Matt Harvey came back from thoracic outlet surgery. And obviously that basically ended his career. He had a terrible year in 2016 when he came back from the Mets after that surgery, and it didn't get much better after that. So I hope nothing like that happens to Zach Wheeler, but you have to be prepared for it if you're the Phillies, that even if you do get Zach Wheeler back at some point this year, he might not be the same guy.
Yeah. It's going to be a lot because he's going to be coming back later in the season. Plus, it does take a while. It takes a while to really ramp up to really being able to pitch at the level you expect to be at the big league level. It's really the final part of rehab from the injury when you look at it.
Yeah,
it's the final part of it, because it's just, you could prepare all you want in minor leagues and stuff. It's just a different thing being in a major league level. There's a lot of eyes on you, and just really getting back to that, being able to perform at the level you were before the injury with the eyes all on you and everything. It's a whole different animal that takes a little while to get back into that form.
Yeah. If you're ever able to regain that form, because there's only been a few pitchers that we have seen have this surgery, and unfortunately, Matt Harvey is an example of a guy never regaining that form. We all remember one of the greatest games I've ever watched pitched was Matt Harvey in Game 5 of the 2015 World Series, where he threw 8 of the most brilliant shutout innings I've ever seen. Now, obviously, he kind of ran out of gas and didn't finish the way we would have wanted it to finish back then, but he was just never the same pitcher after that game again, and it's because of the thoracic outlet surgery. So let's just hope that's not the same thing that happens to Zach Wheeler. But, look, I think that's a reason why I'm picking the Mets too, because not only do they not have Zach Wheeler for a portion of this season, but the Mets have Freddie Peralta for all of this season. So, not only do you have the Freddie Peralta, you also have to figure that Juan Soto is going to find a way to accidentally be more clutch than he was last year. Because even though he had a good numbers season last year, we all know that he was not very clutch last year when it mattered. So let's just hope we get a more clutch season out of Juan Soto, and obviously having the ace in Freddie Peralta to set the rotation straight is a perfect combination for the Mets to win in the division.
Yeah, I feel like this team has the key thing is going to be that was missing last year was the pitching. I feel like there was a lot of good offense, but we were missing that pitching, and I feel like we got that pitching, and plus we got some pitching that's going to play a big factor down the line in the minors. Right there, just getting ready, just warming up there in AAA. That's could play a big factor. So we're good. I feel like there's going to be a big thing late, especially during the second half of the year, that's going to propel the Mets to some big things down the stretch run.
I think you're right about that too. Let's keep our fingers crossed and turn our attention now to the National League Central, Dan. And once again, me and you are on the same wavelength on this one. We're both looking at the Cubs to take that division title away. Milwaukee, for a lot of the year last year, the Cubs were out in front, but Milwaukee got hot really after the All-Star break and just took that division title and ran with it. And the Cubs were not able to get back on track. They did make the playoffs, however, unfortunately for them, we're not able to go too deep. Cubs get knocked out. They do make some changes. They are bringing in, or they did bring in, obviously, a guy who was on the World Baseball Classic team this year for the U.S. in Alex Bregman. Guy's got a couple of championships with the Houston Astros. Had a great run last year for the Boston Red Sox, but he's going to the Windy City now. He's playing in Wrigley Field, and it's something that does make sense to me. This guy's a winner. You put him on this team. I think a lot of guys are going to gravitate to that winning attitude, and the Cubs already have a really, really good foundation there, especially former Met Pete Crow Armstrong out there, who is one of the. I mean, say what you want about his bat, it can go hot, it can go cold. He is one of the best defensive center fielders in the game today, bar none. And their outfield defense over there, we saw it, Dan, last year, late in the season, how good that Chicago Cub outfield defense is and how many extra base hits did those guys rob from the Mets by, it looked like base hits that there's no way anyone was going to get to it. I specifically remember a ball that Juan Soto hit that looked like it had a double written all over it off the ivy, and somehow Pete Crow Armstrong was able to lay out and make an incredible grab, robbing Soto of the hit. So I think there's a lot of good things going on in Wrigley over there right now, and I think we're both on the same page when it comes to the Cubs winning the NL Central.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of a given that that's how that's gonna play out.
Yeah, so Cubs across the board on here, and me and you agree, Dan, not surprisingly, on the National League West too. So it's a clean sweep. We're 100% in agreement on all three National League division winners. We got the Mets, we got the Cubs, obviously we got the Dodgers. There's really no reason in wasting any breath on this. It's the Dodgers. They've won the division how many years in a row now? Obviously, back-to-back World Series champions. So there's a reason why we picked the Dodgers for that one, Dan. But instead, let's talk about the National League wild cards that we both got. Once again, pretty similar. We only have one team in our entire National League playoff picks. Me and you only have one team that is different from each other. You have the Diamondbacks and I have the Padres, but the other two teams we have as the wild cards are the Phillies and Brewers. Not surprising, we both have them on there. Dan, what do you think about this? What's your reasoning?
I feel like the Phillies and a Padres. I meant the Phillies, the D-backs and the Padres are just gonna go neck and neck for that last wild card spot, and somehow the D-backs seem to have a knack for having a late resurgence that they could sneak right in there. So I feel like the D-backs are a dark horse team in this whole thing.
The D-backs are a dark horse team, no doubt about it. But I mean, they did sneak in there in 2023, but the Mets also cost them one game out in 2024, so they came up short. And then 2025, they were out before the Mets even were. So there is that. They did choke the last two seasons, but they were in it too. So you could say that they didn't make the playoffs, but they did. And the last time they made the playoffs, they went all the way to the World Series. So definitely no shame in picking the Diamondbacks in this. They are definitely a good team. So I can understand why you'd see that. It's going to be interesting to see. They do have their big pitcher that they spent the money on last year coming back from injury. So it'll be interesting to see how they end up playing that out because, any team, look, we see how the Yankees were without, we see how the Yankees were without their ace in Garrett Cole last year, and even though they were able to piece it together and put a winning team together, it's still hard to go out there and compete without your ace. And let's not forget, the guy I'm talking about is Corbin Burns, the former Milwaukee Brewer, former Baltimore Oriole that signed a big money contract with them in the offseason. Then after 11 starts, had to shut it down to get Tommy John surgery. So wouldn't surprise me if he comes back at some point this year and provides a big burst to the Diamondbacks at some point. However, Dan, I still it's tough to pick against the Padres. The Padres always find a way to wiggle their way in there. You know, we all remember their run in the playoffs back in 2022 when they beat our Mets in the first round, and they went to the NLCS the following year. They always seem to get into it. And then obviously, you know, they're going to be going up against the Dodgers all the time too. So they are a battle-tested team. So I'm picking the Dodgers. You're picking the Diamondbacks, but it's splitting hairs. You can't really complain either way with that. So I do think that we have pretty good picks on that front. And so we have all of our playoff teams set right now. As I see, the Rangers just tied the Columbus Blue Jackets in the background right there off the stick of Mika Zibanejad. And unfortunately, it's going to be the only time we mention the Rangers in this show because they're not doing too good and no reason to waste any time talking about them. But Dan, we did have our World Series prediction. Both of us, not surprisingly, have picked the Mets. And you picked the Mets over the Mariners. So you have the Mariners getting to their first ever World Series. And you have the Mets beating them in 6. And I, on the other hand, have the Mets taking on the Tigers. I told you how much I like that Tigers team and their pitching staff and everything. I have the Tigers getting to the World Series and the Mets beating them in 5. So what do you think, Dan? You got the Mariners. I got the Tigers. Tell me your thoughts.
I just have a feeling the Tigers are just going to have some kind of mini Cinderella run, but just going to come quite up short for another team that's going to have a Cinderella run. That's going to be one that'll break a championship drought. That'll make me that might make me need the medics on standby. Cause let's face it, we both might faint after the outcome. Cause I know right off the bat, the medics are going to need to be on standby for the both of us. Cause we might be fainting there at Donovan's when there's a camera on us at Donovan's Pub in Woodside watching the World Series, assuming I'm watching it there. Cause I feel like there's only going to be one of two places I'm going to be potentially watching that game. I'm going to be at Donovan's, the both of us watching it, or probably physically at the stadium, wherever that, you know, could be home and road. One of those two places I'll be at. Seeing the moment that'll be the biggest moment of my lifetime that I will talk about. We will talk about forever.
Oh, no doubt about that, man. And yeah, so definitely, if the Mets are able to fulfill these predictions, we'll be losing our minds at this point in October. So definitely right about that. And Dan, with that, let's hope, let's try to will that into existence. The Mets winning the championship. And with that, buddy, I think that's just about going to do it for us today on this edition of Best Seat in the House podcast. Want to thank everybody for hanging out with us in the chat. You guys are awesome. Love talking back and forth with you guys. Thanks for hanging out with us. And Dan, anything you'd like to plug before we get out of here?
Sure. My Twitter, Bobo103NYC. It said you can follow me on X for there. Also check out the track. Also check out the Bobo718DK on Instagram. Same username on Treads for your content on Instagram. And also one word Daniel Curlin on YouTube. You got your Bobo content there. Also, you get 8 days early access if you subscribe to our Patreon. You get 8 days early access whenever I upload stuff on YouTube. So there's always plenty there for everyone. Plus stuff like tracks I admitted I got to go ahead and film the latest tracks I admitted covering what happened at Las Vegas, but that'll be up there soon enough. And more importantly, you support the show and once again a big thank you to everyone watching us. Big thank you to everyone watching on the page that show we did that WBC watch along. That was a a lot of fun. Thanks to everyone who joined us that time. It was had no real time, and there'll be plenty of other shows like that, and hopefully we'll be doing a Knicks NBA Finals watch along.
Well, definitely there are future watch alongs that are going to happen, especially based off, look, if we had such a great response to those shows, why wouldn't we? It'd be a dumb move not to. If people want that kind of content of us hanging out and reacting to the games, that's awesome. I'm definitely down for that, Dan. So there will be more of those in the future. We really appreciate it. If you guys really like those bonus shows, check them out. We did 3 of them over the last month. We did one for the watch along for the gold medal game. We did one for the United States in the gold medal game last month in the Olympics between the United States and Canada in hockey. We had one on Friday where it was United States versus Canada in the World Baseball Classic that the U.S. won. And then obviously the championship game on Tuesday that unfortunately the U.S. came up just a little bit short in. So definitely more like that on the table. Want to thank everybody for hanging out with us during all those streams and tonight. And also personally want to thank everybody that was a part of those streams with us. Obviously the great Stevie Lou. He's the man. Want to thank him for everything he did with that. Want to thank Cardiff Electric for dropping by and hanging out with us. Want to thank obviously Bobby Tamburo and Barb Marie. They were hilarious on there as well. So really had a great group with everybody, and thank you so much to everybody who watched and hung out, and those who donated too. Thank you so much. So for my co-host, the great Daniel Bobo Curlin, I'm Rob Kramer. This is the Best Seat in the House podcast, everybody. We'll be back with you on Sunday for our Patreon show. So check out patreon.com/Best Seat in the House podcast. And everybody have a great weekend. We'll be back with you on Sunday. So in the meantime, let's go Knicks. Have a great weekend, everybody.